Thank you. Very happy to be here today, actually for three reasons. One is, it doesn't happen too often as a government official now, that you get invited to an event that you didn't subsidize. So, you're maybe going to ask me for that later, but okay. Until now, this was really, and that's the second reason that I'm very happy, this is really a business initiative, and I think those are the best. It's visionary leaders getting together and really working on something which is a perceived need and demand, much better than if we have that some government think such an initiative up. So very well done. The other reason that I'm happy to be here is because this is about manufacturing industry, the maakindustrie. And I think in general, an increasing appreciation of the importance of the industry to our economy and to the world in general. And I think, of course, there has been a trend, you also alluded to it, that the importance of the industry, at least the perceived importance of the industry, has declined over decades. In fact, over the last 50, 60 years, you see a gradual decrease of the industry, also as a share of our total economy, of our GDP. In fact, today it's 13% of GDP. At some point it was 26, even 30%. So it really has decreased. I think an even more maybe disturbing trend is that it also has decreased in perception, I think particularly with younger people. That it's maybe not so sexy to be in industry. And of course, there's one thing I want to share. I lived for a couple of years in Houston. This was in the 90s, so it's a long time ago. But I witnessed the rise and fall of a company called Enron. I don't know if people remember them. But I really think that was an important development at the time, because these guys, there was actually a small utility energy company in the southwest, Texas, that really developed this whole idea of trading on virtual products. So they went from production and having actual products to going into paper trade. And they generated very complex products, swaps, margin swaps, virtual equity contracts. I won't go into the detail, but at some point also the paper markets were 10 times bigger than the actual physical products. And even big corporations, like companies like Shell, for example, started to believe, and you saw it also on Wall Street, that that this was the new era of the assetless company. Yeah, and this is way before Airbnb and all those type of companies. So the assetless companies, you don't need to invest in steel in the ground. You have a whole new different business model and you can make lots of money. Now, it collapsed, it failed. But I think that in the minds of the people at that time, it was a very important development. And you can easily take that trend into the rise of the financial service industry, of course, that we have seen at the beginning of this century. Anyhow, also in the Netherlands, you see that more than 50% of our economy is now service related. So the share of industry is relatively small. However, if we take a closer look, we actually see that the output of our Dutch industry in activity is bigger, larger than 60 years ago. So, of course, there were fewer people today in the industry, but actually they make more. So we make more with less. And it makes us actually one of the world's top productive economies and industries in the world. And I think there's also a realization now the importance of this industrial sector also for the Netherlands. For example, 60% of all the R&D in the Netherlands is spent in the industry. Every €1 that is earned in the industry generates another 0.80 euro in other sectors. Every job that is in the industry generates 1.2 jobs in other parts of the industry. So if you all add that together, it's actually that whole ecosystem is 25% of the total economy and 45% of total exports. So the industry is very important to this country. Of course, over the years, the composition of our industry changed dramatically. We have seen industries disappearing, mining, textiles, shipbuilding, or heavy shipbuilding. And we also have witnessed major transformations. Companies like Philips, DSM, for example, going from a mining chemical, petrochemical company now into a life science company. And of course, this trend continues, that there is massive change. And of course, we're at the eve, or maybe some say we're already in the fourth industrial revolution, the smart industry of the Internet of Things, robotics, 3D printing, and so on. And this requires a complete redesign and rethinking of the manufacturing industry. The good news, you can argue, is that, and that is a big change, is that the factor labor in total production is, of course, and certainly in the new production, the new ways of producing, is declined tremendously. That share has become less important for the products that we make, and that means actually that it attracts and brings new opportunities of new investments in industries that we didn't have before, or that have a new chance because in the past we were not competitive enough. And we see, of course, with VDL, with car manufacturing, but we also see companies like Airborne and Aerodynamics, high-tech companies that bring aerospace, for example, production into the Netherlands. The other big trend, and I don't need to explain it to this audience, which I think gives lots of new opportunities, of course, that there's going to be, because of new ways of producing, more automated producing, going to have more local production, closer to customers, and much more customized. So I think great opportunities for entrepreneurs. And we also see blurring of traditional boundaries. Definition of who's a producer and who's a consumer is actually changing. Everybody with a house or even with a room becomes an hotel manager. Everybody with a car becomes a taxi driver or goes into logistic services. And we all can become journalists via Twitter. So, maybe become more prosumers and conducers. It is different. So, also sectors are changing where we traditionally talk about this industry, and this is the service industry. That is blurring. We get the servicification of industry. Actually, I think many people are not longer selling just a physical product. There's a lot of augmented services that go with the product, and it makes it interesting. Where people like Philips no longer selling light bulbs, for example, but selling light, interesting lease construction, maintenance deal. There's all kind of new services being added to the physical product. And the ownership of product also changes. We talk about the share economy. But I think all in all, the good news is that with all these developments, we still need products, and the demand for products will rise. So again, I think great opportunities for industry. So as the Chinese say, we live in interesting time, or may you live in interesting times. We see a lot of change, but at the same time also huge societal challenges, and that's where I think we come in. Talk a little bit about the core of the industrial policy and top sector policy. So our belief is, how do we actually, that we should turn these challenges that we're all facing, the big climate change, energy, urbanization, food and water security of supply, aging populations, we need to turn that into business opportunities with a strong focus on innovation. And that will increase our competitiveness as an economy, and we can therefore then also achieve green growth. Now, the government can't predict or enforce even which technologies or players or clusters are best positioned. That the market should do. But we do know, though, that we can only achieve tackling these challenges by close cooperation between business, science, and government, and inspired around innovation. It makes a lot of sense to us, but I can assure you this approach, the golden triangle or the triple helix, is something very unique to Holland. We don't see that in the rest of the world, and people actually ask us a lot of questions how we do it. Now, we have seen, of course, that one product, one company, or even one app can change entire industries. There are good examples of that. But I personally don't believe that the challenges that we are facing, like climate change, will be solved by one company or even with an app. It really required established industries and new players to work very closely together. That's also why I'm very excited about the Make Next platform, because you can really take this to a next level. You're going to be bringing together the brain power of quite different species that don't live naturally together. Large corporations, small and medium enterprises, the startups, the scale-ups, the challengers, the disruptors, all coming together, learning from each other and building on each other's strength with mutual benefit and respect. We call it symbiosis. And that is also the little picture over there, that you have these unusual partners working together to each other's benefit. I always wonder, if you see something like that from an evolutionary perspective, how did this happen? That one day some bird woke up and saw this alligator with his beak wide open and thought, hey, that's a great place for food. But anyhow, this is happening, so it is possible. So I think that the Make Next platform can really inspire partnership for symbiotic innovation, to turn the big challenges that we are facing into business opportunities, and that will all to our benefit. So thank you very much, and lots of success.